Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot, and I'm on with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands, and thankfully also with a raincoat because it looks like it may rain. I know there's blue skies up there today, but it has been raining on and off, and I'm hoping that this thing will protect me if it does start to bucket it down once again. Right, where are we? Well, I'm back in Wakefield and it's taken me a long time to get here. I've had a little break for a few weeks in this district, but we are back in the city of Wakefield and I'm in a town centre. It's all big parishes left now, apart from one, and this is one of the big ones. And I'm stood next to a Christmas tree. It must be getting close to Christmas. It is in fact November. I'm filming this on November the 10th, but nothing wrong with preparing early. Where am I? I'm in South Elmsall. Welcome back to Sescu. Today we're in South Elmsall, a town and civil parish in the city of Wakefield. The town had a population in 2001 of 6,107, which increased to 6,519 at the 2011 census. It's bounded by the parishes of North Elmsall and South Kirby and Moorthorpe in Wakefield, and the parishes of Clayton with Frickley, Hooton, Pagnell and Hereford in Doncaster. It covers an area of 5.769 kilometres squared, which gives it a population density of 1,326. The demographic here is 98.4% white British, and the population has seen a sharp increase over the past 10 years, up by 1.7%. So here at Durn Street, this is the border between South Elmsall and South Kirby and Moorthorpe. Durn Street, this is South Elmsall, but this church here is not. That actually lies within South Kirby and Moorthorpe because the border is here, this wall and part of this road. Now the library that's over there, that's also South Elmsall, it even says South Elmsall on it, but the Aldi store that's next to it is South Kirby and Moorthorpe. Just another one of those amazing anomalies when it comes to parish boundaries. So everything further that way, that's South Kirby and Moorthorpe, and that'll be in a separate episode. So I'm heading this way into South Elmsall to see what's in the town centre. It may surprise you to know that the land South Elmsall occupies was once coastal. On Field Lane, a stromatolite reef dating back to the Permian period was discovered by geological experts. On the west side of the reef was sand, and on the east side was sea, which stretched as far as Holland and Germany. The former South Elmsall quarry was deemed a site of national importance by DEFRA due to the visible section of the aforementioned reef. So boundary anomaly again. This billiard hall is actually within South Kirby and Moorthorpe, believe it or not, because the boundary is just at the end of this road. It's very strange, this parish boundary. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? This should really be within South Elmsall because it's right on the edge of the town centre, but I don't make the rules. It's South Kirby and Moorthorpe, but I'll include it in this episode because I don't really see as it makes much sense coming back here again in South Kirby and Moorthorpe. Onward. That reef, of course, predates any kind of settlement built here. The first mention of South Elmsall is in the Domesday Book, and it's referred to as Elmsall. The village was under Norman domination. This was largely a small farming settlement until the Industrial Revolution and the sinking of the collieries. This caused a boom in population and a need for modern housing for the workforce. This has left a town with a mixture of stone and brick buildings. The town and its neighbours were mentioned in the Domesday Book, and other industries such as quarrying for stone, agriculture and brick manufacturing were also known at different periods of the town's history, with many of the former buildings and sites associated with them still existing. South Elmsall continued as a small farming village with stone cottages nestling in a valley until the early 1800s. Lime quarrying was the industry until coal became the main provider, attracting workers from different areas, which in turn had to provide houses and schools to educate the growing population. If you want to buy a house here these days, you'd be looking at an average current value of £134,000. Close to the train station, there's a board that tells us about the Wakefield Way, which is a 70-mile walk you can take virtually around the perimeter of Wakefield, which you can pick up here in South Elmsall. Of course, the town is most famous for its coal mining past. It was the site of Frickley Colliery, which was one of the largest deep coal mines in the United Kingdom. We'll get to that later. These days, on the outskirts of the town is the Dale Lane Industrial Estate, which we saw briefly in the North Elmsall episode, marking a shift away from its old industrial past and making South Elmsall one of the key expansion areas since the closure of the mines. The town is still home to Carlton Main Frickley Colliery Band, a successful brass band who have been British and European champions. A busy market town these days, it has easy access to both Doncaster and Wakefield, and in the summer the town centre is adorned with hanging baskets and floral arrangements that enhance the locality of the shopping and market area. Public transport, and South Elmsall is served by both rail and bus. The nearest station is of course South Elmsall Railway Station, and the main bus station is also situated beside it. This whole area is known as the South Elmsall Transport Hub. The station is unstaffed and has had its main buildings, formerly located on the northbound platform, and the goods shed here demolished. There are waiting shelters on both platforms, and there is a self-service ticket machine provided for passengers to buy tickets prior to travelling. Step-free access to both platforms is via ramps from the road bridge at the north end. Mondays to Saturdays there's an hourly service to Leeds via Wakefield Westgate and to Doncaster, with a few additional trains in the weekday peaks. On Sundays there's also an hourly service in both directions. The station is less than 1 mile away from Moorthorpe Station, which means the South Kirby South Elmsall area has a half-hourly service towards Leeds all the way through the week. There's also a freight-only line to the South Humberside main line to Hatfield and Stainforth and beyond, part of the original West Riding and Grimsby Railway, which diverges to the south of the station. Now, the station may be in West Yorkshire, but South Yorkshire passenger transport executive tickets are valid to and from this station on services into South Yorkshire. The station is featured in the literary works of A.F. Branstrath, who set the final scene of Dim the Lights on the southbound platform. There are plenty of schools in South Elmsall. Here, close to the town centre, we can see one of its primary schools, Carlton Junior and Infant. The principal places of Christian worship here include Trinity Methodist Church, which we will see in a short while, St Joseph's Roman Catholic Church, Jerusalem Christian Fellowship, the Oasis in the Old Billiard Hall, and the New Jerusalem Christian Fellowship. St Luke's Church is also used by the locals too, but as we've already seen, that belongs technically to South Kirby and Moorthorpe. Some of those churches are members of Sescub, South Elmsall, South Kirby, Upton and Badsworth together. South Elmsall's main parish church is St Mary the Virgin. There's been a church on this site for over 100 years. The current building dates from 1910. It was established by the Anglicans inspired by the Oxford movement, whose aim was to restore to the Church of England that which had been lost at the Reformation: Catholic understanding, spirituality, and an awareness of the Church's unique calling under God. Priests and religious sisters of the Oxford movement went to areas where there was great social and spiritual need. They carried with them the message of Christ's gospel and tried to show how it could be lived out in practice. Of course, this is a town and we've seen some of the shops that you can find here already in the town centre. On Barnsley Road there are shops featuring many household names alongside many other independent shops. There's also a library which we've already mentioned, and check out this dental practice which makes use of the old Jackson's building on Barnsley Road, the main shopping street. Now we come to community centres, and South Elmsall has two close together. These are the St Luke's Youth and Community Centre and the Westfield Centre. St Luke's Youth Centre is Sesku's most popular youth facility, open every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 9, even in the school holidays. South Elmsall Town Council took over the Westfield Resource Centre from June 2012. The Westfield Resource Centre was a school until the early 1980s, when, due to reorganisation of the education provision of the district, it was closed. There was great pressure to demolish the building to create additional car parking provision for the town centre. This was resisted by local activists, who managed to persuade the principal authority, supported by residual funding, to create a resource and enterprise centre which opened its doors in the early 1990s. The centre had a great impact on the regeneration of South Elmsall and surrounding areas, with thousands of students and new start businesses benefiting from this initiative. The centre continued to operate successfully until 2005, when it was taken over by Wakefield Metropolitan District Council Adult Education before being closed in 2010. The large traditional market is a central feature of the shopping area of the town, with approximately 105 trading stalls. I was unfortunate enough to come though on a day when the market was closed. The outdoor market and units in South Elmsall are open 3 days a week and are popular with shoppers of all ages and all backgrounds, with goods ranging from carpets to clothing. The market even has a Friends of South Elmsall Market website and Facebook page you can visit, which uses the slogan, "If we don't use it, we'll lose it." Cheap parking is also a reason to come here. If you normally go to a town centre such as Wakefield, Pontefract or Doncaster, you'll be amazed at these low parking charges here in South Elmsall. The town also has a petrol station, and there are plenty of pubs and former pubs dotted around here too. Shown here is the Pretoria Sports and Social Club. And the whole town is protected by CCTV. Okay, so everything you've seen so far has been in the town centre. I've just basically walked around in a big circle, basically around the Westfield Centre, because that's effectively where South Elmsall Town Centre is located. But there's a lot more to this one than what you've seen, a lot more. And next thing we're going to do is put the camera on the dashboard, go for a little drive. Now that's just the first drive around here in South Elmsall. I'll be doing another one in a short while, but I've stopped just here outside the Junction pub, and there's something interesting to see which is right next door to this, that way. Let's go and see what it is. This is the Warde-Aldams care home on Westfield Lane. Whilst the care home is a feature that I was always going to include in this video, it's the name here that we're more interested in. The Warde-Aldams were an important local family that owned many properties both in and around this part of Yorkshire. We've met the name before. They owned Hooton Pagnell Hall and Frickley Hall, both of which we met in the Doncaster series. The Warde-Aldams Hospital was a hospital built in 1911 by the Carlton Main Colliery Limited and was used as a general voluntary hospital until 1948. It was then taken over by the NHS and provided acute hospital care until 1978. Sport now, and we're at the home of Frickley Athletic Football Club and Frickley Colliery Welfare Cricket Club. Here's the cricket ground, and the club currently has 3 senior and 3 junior teams playing in the Pontefract and District League, Barnsley Senior and Barnsley Junior League. Frickley Athletic Football Club are currently members of the Northern Premier League Division 1 East, the 8th tier of football in England. Since 1910, Frickley have played home games at Westfield Lane. The ground was initially used for athletics as early as 1904, with the main stand being approved for construction in 1927 and opening in 1929 with the help of the Miners' Welfare Fund. While the colliery was still operating, the stadium sat at the foot of a large spoil tip, which has since been largely lowered in height and landscaped as part of Frickley Country Park. The club itself claims it was formed in 1910, but the team was active as early as 1908, when it was a member of the South Yorkshire League. The football team was only one arm of the Frickley Athletic Club, which had been formed to give miners at the Frickley Colliery a recreational outlet. In a 1908 Yorkshire Telegraph and Star newspaper article, the club was referred to as Frickley Colliery Athletic, but as the years have gone on, they've just become known as Frickley Athletic. So if you fancy coming to a game here at Frickley Athletic, here's the price list. £10 for an adult, £7 for a junior, £7 for an OAP, and under 16s, £4. I'm not quite sure what the difference between juniors and under 16s is though. Ronnie Radford, scorer of the famous long-range goal for non-league Hereford United against First-Division Newcastle United in 1972, in one of the FA Cup's greatest giant-killing acts, was born here. Okay, time to hop back in the car and complete the drive around. My original plan was to drive a little bit further than this, but due to a road closure, I ended up here on Ash Grove outside Trinity Methodist Church. So you might recognise Ash Grove because this is the other end of Ash Grove, which is in Minsthorpe. If you remember, that's within the parish of North Elmsall. The parish boundary is up there somewhere beyond my car and beyond Trinity Methodist Church. Okay, I've got one more place to go here in South Elmsall, and that's coming at you after today's picture bit. Here that comes right now. Frickley Country Park officially opened in September 2009 after a long period of land reclamation, environmental cleaning and landscaping of the former Frickley Colliery site. The site offers walks and play areas as well as space for new housing development as part of the wider regeneration scheme. Nearby is located the Frickley Off-Road Centre, a specialist facility for motorsports which is theoretically just over the border into South Kirby and Moorthorpe. Frickley Colliery itself was opened by the Carlton Main Colliery Company in 1903. It was powered by electricity, and the company built in 1925 the central power station at Frickley. The 22,500 kilowatt output station fed a vault ring main connected to Grimethorpe, Frickley, Brearley, Ferrymore and South Elmsall collieries. Despite being located in South Elmsall, the colliery was sunk within the land of Frickley Hall, hence the Frickley name. The colliery became a key source of union radicalism. During the UK miners' strike, there were numerous disturbances in the area. It was one of the last pits to return to work after the strike, seeing as it was picketed by a group of hardliners from Kent who continued to picket Frickley after the NUM had called off the strike. The colliery would eventually close on the 26th of November 1993, following closures of nearby pits like Ferrymore Riddings, Kinsley, South Kirby and Grimethorpe. In the town centre, there's a colliery memorial which states on the stone that accompanies a winding wheel, "Out of these depths, the village grows." How true is this? So I'm not quite at the top here of the country park because, as you can see behind me, there is a little ridge. You have to go up a little bit further if you want to get right to the top of this. But even so, I think this probably is the best view I'm going to get from here over South Elmsall. and out towards North Elmsall and Upton. And yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it for the parish of South Elmsall. Another one down in Wakefield. 7 more to go now. I will eventually get through all of these, but in theory I should now have no problems in coming into Wakefield and getting these done over the next 8 or 9 weeks, with Christmas in the way of course, to break it up again. And there we go. That's South Elmsall, and I've been Andy, otherwise known as the Village Idiot. I'll see you next time in Wakefield. I'm out.